I don't think you can be objective. I don't think. Everybody's got an angle.
Yeah.
As a photographer, I'm 5'5", dude. If I take a picture, it's gonna look like it came from a short person. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is my angle, literally, right? You know what I'm saying? Already.
Give me the paint, give me the chalk, give me the urban artist talk. Conversations from the heart, from the start we set apart. Art a la carte, now check it.
Hey, beautiful art community. Thank you for watching another episode. Be sure to subscribe to Urban Artist Talk. Your subscription will help us to bring on more guests and make sure that we fund this whole project. So thank you for watching another episode, and we look forward to your support. We're back with another episode. We got a very, very special guest in the building. Once again, I'm Andre Jamora. I am your host of Urban Artist Talk, where we talk to not only artists here in the Bay Area, but people involved in the art community. So that brings our guest in today. He is not only a host himself, a journalist, writer, author, Emmy Award winner. The list goes on and on. I would like to give a special, welcome to our guest, Pendarvis Harshaw.
Thank you for having me, man. It's good to be in the fold, surrounded by art.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So glad to have you. This is your first time here in the space.
First time in the space. I apologize for the delayed response, but things happen when they're supposed to happen.
Exactly.
And we've had many conversations. We've crossed paths in the street so many times, and so many artists that you work with, I've interviewed them, and so yeah, it's meant to be.
That's why I was so glad. I was like, man, who will change a little bit of the demographic? Because usually we super focus on muralists, then artists, then we've interviewed a few journalists. I was like, we need to have more journalists and people that are in the heartbeat of the community and just like not only painting the stories, but also documenting the stories in various ways. So
thank you, man. I'm an arts advocate, man.
Yeah, man.
So
you're an artist yourself, man. I've read plenty of your writings, man. You're an artist with the words, with the pen, man.
Thank you. Yeah, it comes from that.
Yeah.
Early days, Oakland Oratorical Poetry Fest, you know what I'm saying? Like kindergarten. So the seed was sown in me and I grew from that.
The seed has been sown. I could tell it's something so innate in you, and it's so, I won't even say ironic, but so fitting that your name is Pendarvis. And I'm sure you've gotten this before, but even on your Instagram, you go by OG Pen.
Yeah.
So even in my phone, when I first met you, I saved your name as like OG Pen. And it was just kind of like, oh, that's his pen name is OG Pen because he's a writer and author. Fitting.
I mean, growing up in the town, I didn't go by my first name growing up.
Yeah.
Up until I was like 17. I went by my middle name, Drew.
Okay.
Which because, it's kind of embarrassing to have a name like Pendarvis. It stands out. You can't be running through the dubs in East Oakland. Like, Pendarvis, come here. Like, nah, I want to be cool. I want to be Drew. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then I got that first check for working in youth radio, and they put Drew on it, and I couldn't cash it. And I was like, okay, I'm Pendarvis now. I'll have you know.
What we talk about. Tone, what we talked about. We were talking with the producer earlier just about, he's like, man, can I call you Natty or is it Andre? And I was just like, it depends on what conversation I'm having. Who cashes the checks is Andre. In the streets, they know me as Natty. So.
Exactly. My family still call me Drew, and to the world, I'm Pendarvis. Penn, I guess my mom knew what she was doing, and that name comes from my father. It's a common last name, and it got passed down as a first name for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is there you want to give us a little bit of
origin
history?
story? I mean, I don't know my father that well, and I asked him. It meant Greek word for man with 5 ships. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to adhere to that. I think Nina Akupenda in Swahili is I love you, and I was like, I'm going to go with that.
Yeah,
it's derivative of that. That's what I'm saying.
Man, I love it. For all the Swahili speakers out there, Nakupenda, you hear it, Pen is right there in it. So, OG Pendarvis. So, fast forward, as a child, you went by Drew, cashed your first check, started going by Pendarvis. When did you know or feel that, writing was just your thing? Was that always as a child, or I would say like professionally?
Professionally, okay, yeah. Because as a child, it was always something that was like fun. It was therapeutic to write poetry, get the stuff off your chest. It was fun to like write raps and cap on my partners in middle school.
You got any raps still?
I still freestyle when I'm stuck in traffic.
Okay,
Like, yeah,
anything out there on the YouTube?
Nah, I try not to embarrass myself publicly. You know what I'm saying? Like, try to keep that in the car.
Got you. Me too.
Yeah, but yeah, professionally, I saw a lane At about 17, 18, I started doing, as I mentioned, youth radio, YR Media.
Yep.
They
Shout
showed
out
me how
to
I could take those raps and tell those same stories, but they didn't have to rhyme. And there was a lot more longevity in being a journalist. In fact, you're a 60-year-old journalist, you're pretty decorated. You're a 60-year-old rapper. At the time, we didn't have too many 60-year-old rappers like Short and 40 doing it right now. And so I made that decision to pursue that path. And the name OG, I mean, I always wanted to be an elder. You know, since I was a youngster, I wanted to live to be old. You know what I'm saying? And what was really popular at the time was so many rappers with Lil in front of their name.
Yeah.
And I was like, y'all gonna be Lil forever? Like, that's, like, are you thinking about the long term?
Right. I don't think they, you're going to be gray and still calling yourself little. You're going to have children that are little and you still, like, that ain't respectable.
Nah, so I'm trying to plan for that 60, 70, 80-year-old me. Yeah.
Smart. Yeah, man. With all the work that you put into the game, it already seems, you know, like I see people calling you OG Penn, you know, with proper, you know, like with proper flowers. So, I mean, you put in that work.
Thank you.
Let's see, where do we start with the work? Podcast, you know, right now-ish, 5 years.
5 years.
Coming to a wrap, or you just finished wrapping it up. Talk to us about right now-ish and just like how that started and, you know, what you did with that.
It all started long ago. Right now, it originally started as a photo essay. So I would walk through the town and I'd see something that caught my eye, some artwork that spoke to a larger narrative, and I'd take a photo of it and I'd post it on Twitter at the time, and I'd say, hey, y'all, there was an image of Colin Kaepernick on West Grand and Telegraph. I took the picture and I said, hey, y'all, this is on this street right now-ish. And that name came from, like, I wouldn't post it as soon as I took the photo because I'm weary of people on the internet knowing exactly where I am when I am. You know what I'm saying?
Smart.
So I would wait until I got to my destination and say, hey, this is going on right now-ish. And when I started working at KQED, I was writing columns and just getting my foot in the door, and I got the opportunity to host a podcast or a radio show initially. And they're like, what would the theme be? And I'm like, I'm already doing this photo essay. I could easily see myself turning it into an audio piece. I'm a multimedia producer, and so I can make that shift, take something that's visual and then do the audio aspect of it. And that's what we did. We launched it originally as a radio program in 2019. The podcast version came in the fall of 2019, and we went on one, man. Just over 200 interviews all across the Bay, people of all different backgrounds, and I was privy to learn so much. That's the thing that I don't think a lot of people understand is, like, as a journalist, you get front row seat to a lot of life. And I'm just like,
as it's unfolding,
right, exactly, in the midst of it. And it's just, it was a run. It was a hell of a run. I'm glad we have it under our belt. We've done live events and all types of stuff, man. And
So what was do you have your funniest story with right now-ish? I know you had plenty of, you know, you said over 200 interviews.
Yeah.
So you were doing this during the pandemic. You started in 2019.
Yeah.
So pandemic was prime for the
Big
podcast. I mean, it was a big shift in the world.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, everybody was already indoors. Everybody
was. Yeah, I think that's what
paint the picture.
That might have been the first wrench that got through into what we were doing, because again, my whole thing was about going to the spot where the art is and speaking to the artist. And with the pandemic, I can't go to that spot.
Right.
I can't be in close quarters with people. And so that was the first wrench. And then the second wrench is that people commonly listen to audio podcasts when they're commuting.
Right.
People weren't commuting. And so you started to see numbers dwindle. And so we had to make some shifts. And recording from the crib on top of everything, it got lonely.
Got it.
You're working in a silo, and I didn't get into journalism to be in a silo. I got in to be a part of the community. And so I had to deal with that. And I don't know. I don't think I ever fully dealt with that. I don't think I fully found the solution to it. And we just kept trying different things. But yeah, we stayed afloat and we had some good episodes. One of the most popular episode was about the pandemic, where I adopted a cat on my daughter's 4th birthday, with the idea that this cat would teach my daughter responsibility, but it all fell on me. And so, I ended up being the cat dad, and I don't like the cat. The cat's just mean and annoying and wakes up at 4 a.m. and scratches the blinds and stuff. To this day, I don't like the cat.
I'm about to say, do you still have the cat?
I still have the cat. I love the cat. I don't like the cat. I love the cat. You gotta love this cat.
Cats are like that. They're not likable creatures. You either love cats or you don't. There's no gray area, because cats, I had a cat at my old house. It just showed up at my door. I fed it one time. The cat came back. You know the
Of
story.
course, yeah.
Couldn't get rid of it. But it would never let me pet it. It never, like it would just come and like walk and graze up against my leg, but really only when it wanted to come in the house or like get some food. But it really, didn't fuck with me.
Yeah.
It just kind of needed somewhere to stay.
We gotta change the terminology. It's not that you get a cat gets you.
All day.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he chose the house and he was kind of like, yeah, this place is cool. I'll stay here for a little while.
Yeah.
But then he was like, I don't know about you, but the house is all right.
And I mean, to this day, I appreciate what the cat offers to my daughter. They chase each other down the hallway. Every once in a while, the cat will scratch her, or she'll put the cat in a bag and swing it around. Whatever, you know what I'm saying? That type of thing, man. But yeah,
love.
We did an episode called Cat Dad, and that got like millions of views, millions of listens rather on NPR. And all this conversation I do about art and the world and everything is this one episode that ends up being the one.
So what you're telling me is I got to do a podcast about cats?
It's about fatherhood.
Fatherhood is what got the...
But the hook
views.
is a cute cat, right? But it's about fatherhood.
Yeah. Cool. So do you have any, what was, heartwarming? What's your funniest episode or funniest moment during the podcast?
Funniest. My mind went directly to the opposite. like we had some hard ones, We're like,
you want to talk about the tragic ones? I'm down for the gritty.
Yeah.
I'm down for the gritty.
I was thinking about this one the other day where I interviewed DJ Willie Mays, Marty, TDK, artist, a writer, entrepreneur, activist. He's done it. He's indigenous 2 times. Indigenous, like from the turf, and also indigenous in his blood.
Wow.
And he shared with me stories of his family and occupying Alcatraz and what his family had gone through.
Wow.
And it was one of those interviews. It was very early in the process. I mean, we might have done this in like right before the pandemic. But after the interview, we cut the tape and we were like, hey, we all got to go to a bar and have a drink together. And like we got to keep talking and shed a tear, because it's like, it was really heavy. And if he loves you, he'll open up. Mm-hmm. But he had never fully opened up to me as much as I had known him in the community. And when I was in grad school, I did a documentary film, TDK, The Dream Continues, which is about Mike Dream Francisco, legendary graph writer, TDK, right?
Those damn kids.
And I talked to the whole crew. Marty wouldn't talk to me for the documentary. He just wasn't open to me. Like so many people wanted to do the story of Mike Dream, right? Mm-hmm. And then once the documentary came out, Marty opened up to me. And then that's when I followed up with the podcast interview, and he fully opened up. And I was like, man, this dude is heavy, man. And it exemplifies how even after the tape cuts, the story still goes, the interview still goes, the work still goes.
It has to, man. It has to. When it's genuine, like it can't just stop when the cameras are off. It has to, be before, during, after. Like this work doesn't stop. So, yeah. Shout out to Marty, man. Shout out to like even that interview. I got to go check it out.
Yeah,
check it out.
It's still up. It's still up.
Okay.
As well as the documentary, TDK, The Dream Continues, is on YouTube. Yeah, it's out there.
Yeah, check it out. And then as an author, tell me a little bit about the book. So you're re-releasing the book. I got to go get the book. The book is?
Yeah, the book is OG Told Me. So
OG Told Me.
I guess my beat is 5 years. I did 5 years with the podcast. I did 5 years with this project.
Okay.
Before the podcast, I had this photo essay, bring it all the way back. I'm teaching at Oakland Tech. It's 2011. It's 2011. I'm teaching at Oakland Tech. First pilot program for the African American Male Achievement Initiative in Oakland, where I had 20 young black men in the classroom, all 9th graders, and they on Tumblr all the time, on their phone, just distracted, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, all right, let me put some content on social media or on the internet that they can engage with, right? So I started interviewing elders in the community with the idea that this could be a bridge. The elders are hesitant to talk to youngsters. Youngsters don't go up to the elders. A lot of these youngsters don't have elders in their lives. Let me be that bridge.
Right.
And so I started interviewing elder black men in Oakland, asking them for tidbits of wisdom, saying, hey, if you had the ear of the youth, what would you tell them based on your life's experience? 5 years I did this, and literally just a photo and a quote, sometimes a full story, and I posted it on Tumblr. And it got a lot of buzz. People wrote about it. The young folks that I was in the class with, they appreciated it. And then eventually people asked me, like, why are you doing this? Like, what's the backstory? Why interview these elder black men? And beyond being that bridge, I had to step back and look at myself and say, this is the way I grew up.
Yeah.
We grew up searching for those tidbits of wisdom. I grew up in East Oakland around a whole bunch of dudes who didn't have fathers in the house.
Right.
And so we would subconsciously talk to the bus driver, the dude with the old cougar in front of the youth center, the barber, whoever, and we would ask them, not even ask them, we would ear hustle. You know what I'm saying? Like, we wouldn't ask, like, how do you be a man?
Get out of here, kid.
Yeah, exactly. But we were like, oh, okay, I see how they do it. I see how they do handshakes and stuff like that.
Are you an artist struggling to sell your artwork? I know the feeling. I've been there, so much so that I decided to publish a book, The Art of Articulation. This book will help you not only navigate the art world, but give you the vocabulary to step into a room with confidence so you can sell your artwork. Pick up this book on Amazon today.
Soaking up those tidbits of wisdom, we quilted together our concept of manhood.
Yeah.
And so the book is 12 essays about me and my friends going out, doing dumb shit, and some elder stepping in out of nowhere and giving some wisdom to us, you know? Like chasing girls, always chasing girls, and then some older dude being like, youngster, do this better, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's what the book is about. And I published it in 2017 originally. I sold 2,500 copies out of my backpack and went wild and had like write-ups in the LA Times and all this other stuff. I just got exhausted. I had a newborn at the time, and so I shelved the project, and that's when I went forward with the KQED work. And so now that, right now it's just come to an end, I'm like, all right, let me go back to the origin.
Yeah.
Get this book back out there, and then work on other projects as well.
Man, I admire you for that. And as I get into my, elder statesmanhood, I'm following in those same footsteps, just publishing a book myself, The Art of Articulation. Got a draft of it right here.
Okay.
So, and it's just that, I'm at the point where I have 6 children, my oldest being 22, he's at Howard University.
Congrats, that's a good school.
Great school. My
I graduated
daughter
from
just
there.
graduated, so shout out to Lulu for doing her thing this year. She's going to Italy.
Okay.
My youngest are 4 and 2.
Ooh.
So I pressed the restart button.
Okay.
And what's crazy with it, what's crazy about that is that I'm reading bedtime stories to them of books that I read to my older children.
Oh.
And now I've bought them over again. And I'm sitting there looking at it, I'm like, wow, this book is still selling 20 years later.
Yeah.
They didn't have to write anything new. It was a great, they probably took, as an author, you think you're going to write it in a couple months, it takes a year, 2 years, 3 years,
6
8 years.
Yeah.
But once it's published, it's to the world. I mean, it might not be a #1 bestseller or make it on Oprah's, #1, but at least it's available and it's still something that people have access to. So, with that being said, I was like, you know what? I want to put something out there, in a book form, because even as art, you're going to buy a painting one time, people can enjoy it for but it's like you see it one time, so being able to document these stories, put them into, podcasts, put them into book form, just so that people can, interact with them outside of just, a flat painting on the wall.
I think it's fascinating that you're solving a problem. You need a book to read. You know what I'm saying? That very simple problem. We need a bedtime story.
Yeah.
You're solving that for multiple generations.
Yeah.
Like, that's mind-blowing to me. In a world that's very finite, to have something that lasts forever. And of course, books can be converted. They can be digitized. They can turn into films. You could take the same concept of a book and put it in a painting.
Right.
Again, to that multimedia, like agility.
Yeah.
But having a book in itself is also something to kind of beat your chest about. Like, yeah, I did that. I got a book. There's,
It's
I'm sure
another
you're proud of
title. It's
yourself.
another little badge that you get to put, like even as the introduction, just that author badge. It's like, even if you sell 5 copies, it's like, you know what?
I did that.
I did that.
That was I literally published it because I was like, you know what? I want to make moms proud. Let me just
That
go ahead
part.
and just get a couple copies and just, see what happens.
You know who got the first copy,
Right, exactly. Straight to moms with it. You know what I'm saying? Still on her bookshelf.
Yeah,
and then I was like, well, I'll open up the doors for the world, and people latched onto it. I was like, whoa, I didn't expect that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good feeling as an artist.
Yeah. So with your book now, you did 25,000 copies out the book bag, town to town, city to city. What's your that was 2017?
2,500.
2,500.
Yeah, big difference.
Right.
Yeah. But But still, that's pretty big.
Yeah, so
you know,
what's the plan now? I mean, bigger and better. There's new marketing
I
tactics.
think just have it out there on the market period,
Yeah.
so that it is out there, and then new projects. Clear the space from these old ideas.
Yeah.
Get them fully out there, and then new projects. I'm itching to get behind the camera. I went to school for documentary film. That's something I would love to get back into. Be it, how can I say, real life documentary or scripted fictional stories.
Yeah.
But yeah, more storytelling, more agility, and more independent work. One of the more like feathers in my cap that I'm really proud of is this hybrid project that we did called Facing Life.
Facing Life.
Facing Life. I gotta tell you about Facing Life, right? So outside of the work I did with KQED and the OG told me, Facing Life is something that I'm like, okay, this is real journalism, man.
Yeah.
Where
Okay, talk to me.
myself and a photographer by the name of Brandon Tauzik, he makes these cinemagraphs, very subtle moving GIFs, right? Real beautiful, like just people just doing the same motion over and over again. We team up and we focus on people who've been incarcerated with life sentences, but they're, let the person come in. So we focus on people who had life sentences in the state of California. But due to changed laws, these people are now exiting out of prisons and returning to society after 20, 30, almost 40 years behind bars.
Wow.
So we asked the question, who's there to assist them as they reintegrate into society? Not even just a matter of like getting jobs and getting housing, but like who's going to teach people how to look out for cars that don't make sounds, how to connect your Bluetooth, you know, things like that,
Simple,
right?
everyday, practical
Simple,
things that
everyday
they missed
things.
out in the last. If you missed the last, I would say even 5 years, it's a different world.
Evolution, how we have evolved in our lifetimes is wild. Technology has grown so much.
Yeah.
And so we looked at 8 people all across the state of California, 5 men, 3 women, and we essentially just checked in with them for 3 years straight as they went through their process. And we learned so much about how people help themselves, help each other rather. It's like an each one reach one system.
You
And,
have to.
and like if I'm a former lifer, no one knows that experience like someone else who was a former lifer. And if you and I were incarcerated together, if you get out 5 months ahead of me, you're like the first or second phone call I'm making.
Got to.
What's up?
'Cause if for those that, for anybody who's had a family member or a friend that, you know, of a friend that's been incarcerated, typically, lifers, when they get out, everyone's gone. Especially when you're talking about like 30 years, like the people they know, the places that they were, you know, accustomed to have all disappeared.
All of that, and you're a changed person.
That
You
part.
don't want to go back to the same community necessarily. But yeah, we just learned so much, man. People told us about like the sensation of having metal hitting your teeth for the first time because you've been eating with plastic cutlery. Wow. And it's like, yeah, just, being that. Or we talked to a woman, the women's story is
Crazy.
just the idea of wearing clothing that isn't blue, county blues. This woman talked about being in a floral dress for the first time in 30 years and how it just lifted her spirits, you know? Or another person talked about like seeing their children, like just these really moving stories. And I started off telling you about Facing Life and how we use these cinemagraphs. And the real goal was to create a visual that allows people to really engage with this person. Because every single one of us told us that the real issue is that our society moves so fast that people are rude. It's just like, go. But we need people to slow down and help them. And it's not just the state to help them get back on their feet, but the gatekeepers who might not know they're gatekeepers. The people who work at the DMV saying, you know what, baby, slow down. I'll help you fill out this paperwork because you're not used to this process. I got it. So yeah, Facing Life, it's online at facing.life. It was backed by the Pulitzer Center. We took it on one. We went to Harvard, we went to Yale, we went to Duke, University of North Carolina, Stanford, Cal, USC. And it was really important to talk to people at these institutions because these are the 18, 19, 20-year-olds who are next in line to be decision makers in our society.
Yeah,
and so we want to make sure that they are informed about how the decision makers now have impacted the people who have lived that experience.
Wow, man, there's so many aspects of that is just like phenomenal, and to even take on that work because, like you said, the society moves so fast that most people don't even want to take the time to help out somebody, especially if they're not blood, even if they are blood.
Or you got that scarlet letter next to your name? You did what? You did something that led to somebody's death? I really don't want to help you.
Yeah, for real.
And so that, like, the redemption and yeah, how we look at people in society, There's a lot of layers to it.
Yeah.
Even the future of employment. You got people who are 56 years old with no translatable skill set. What do if jobs are vanishing?
Yeah, they're the last. I mean, jobs are vanishing, and with that little mark on your, like ain't nobody want to hire you. Plus, your experience, everything is digital now. It doesn't matter if you are the foreman, the head janitor. You better know how to like read text messages and be able to like respond in a timely fashion. So it's all that.
Yeah, it was a very fascinating project. I still think about it often, and like, I had already been working in, like, I worked with the San Quentin News. I taught classes at the California Medical Facility, which is a prison in Vacaville.
Wow.
And so I had already been working in prisons in California and working around that topic. But to do a deep dive, it was completely independent, just Brandon and myself. We worked with the editor, Carvel Wallace. And it just, we got it published through the Los Angeles Times. And most importantly, everybody we highlighted, the 8 people, all felt well represented. They all spoke of the dark times and was very clear that, no one's an angel.
Yeah.
And they all felt well represented. And that is really, really, like, I can sleep easier at night.
Man, it's super important, and that's why it's crucial that we have people like yourself in places of documenting and documentations, because of that, what you just spoke on in terms of just representation.
Yeah.
Yes, nobody's an angel, but I mean, even as an artist, there's times where I'll do an interview for a newspaper, and I'll be super excited to talk to the person.
Right.
So I'm like, yes, when is it coming out? And then I'll go and see and I'm like, oh, you had an angle, number one, Black Lives Matter, and I'm like, okay. And then you kind of misquote, and I'm like, okay, because you had an angle, this is the quote, the fiery part of our whole conversation. So it's crucial that people are heard, people feel seen, especially, when they've already felt alienated from our society.
A couple things on that. One, I don't think you can be objective. I don't think. Everybody's got an angle.
Yeah.
As a photographer, I'm 5'5", dude. If I take a picture, it's gonna look like it came from a short person. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is my angle, literally, right? You know what I'm saying? Already.
I love it.
And then, as a person who's had a father who's been incarcerated, as all my partners, a number of my partners have spent time behind bars, I have an angle.
Yeah.
And it's an empathetic angle.
Right.
And I'm very clear about that.
Right.
And at the same time, this is journalism. I have to tell your story. Something tragic happened. You did something that was illegal. We need to mention that, And so I think being transparent about my background and where I'm coming from and why I think this story is important, and still trying to stay as close to that prime meridian as possible. Shoot down the middle.
Yeah.
And then that other part is you mentioned, like, telling someone's story and people being excited to be heard from. These are people who've been incarcerated for hella long and have told their story to the board and their cellmates and the people that they write letters to, but not to like a publication.
Yeah. And
so when they talk to me and I got their life story and I got to edit it, I got to condense it down to 2,000 words, I'm sweating bullets. How do I make sure I properly represent this person? And so it was pretty tough.
Yeah.
A lot of bike rides and going for jogs and getting away from it and coming back to it.
Have to.
That's the only way that I could really piece it all together.
Yeah. No, it's a process. So even with your journaling, you want to speak to, even when you came in here, I know you're, with working at, institutions of incarceration, KQED, podcasts, like you're a busy man.
Yeah.
But it seems like you are very comfortable in your skin, which makes, your work, easily translatable. I know it's a process, and that's what I wanted to get into. Do you have a process? You just spoke on, getting away from it, coming back to it. It seems like you've put in so much work, and I feel like after you've done that, 10,000 hours of, towards mastery.
Yeah.
With the first, 2 initials of OG pen, like I would consider you a master of the pen. So
Thank
do you have a process with your writing?
Yeah, start by fucking up. First thing first, get it out the way, bro. No, that OG Told Me project, that was completely independent, right?
Okay.
And so that gave me my 10,000 hours, where I was just beating the pavement, going out there, interviewing somebody, doing it for myself. I've realized I'm a morning person.
Mm-hmm.
It's easier to get up, get focused 4 or 5 in the morning just knock stuff out and do the really important work before people start text messaging you and emailing you and breathing up all the good air. You know what I'm saying? Like, just focus before the world starts moving. I work really well on Sunday nights, just because it's very subtle, and like the weekend, you've gotten your energy out. My big philosophy is take your time, do it right.
Yeah.
And that's like, when I was a kid, my mom would be like, take your time, do it right, in the traditional way. But me being stubborn, I was like, take your time. This is my time. I'm taking it. Do it. Go out and experience, live something, and then write with a W.
Wow.
Take your time, do it right.
That's why I love perspective, and that's why I consider you an artist.
Thank
because
you.
that's what artists do. We problem solve and see things in a different angle than the majority of people. You know, it's like, okay, I see what you told me. I get what you're trying to express. But I want to give you this vantage point right here.
Yeah, I'm going to remix it slightly and make it apply to myself. But yeah, that has worked for me a lot. I'm back and forth now between Oakland and Sacramento, and so I have to have that balance too, and a lot of planning ahead.
Yeah.
And I have a beautiful daughter. She's 7 years old, and she follows my path, you know, and so I have to make sure that I allot time to be fully present in her life, and then allot time to be fully present in my work, and that is my balance right now.
Yeah, man. So even for, you know, a lot of the young artists that I know that are, you know, becoming parents, you know, a lot of the young entrepreneurs, speak to, you know, balancing, you know, your passion, you know, and parenting.
Ain't no balance, dog. Ain't no balance.
You
It's
gotta
fiction.
find-
It's fiction. Like,
It's got to be a balance. We get it done.
we juggle.
Ah.
We juggle. Like, there's times where I'm like the A+ parent and the C journalist. There's times where I'm the award-winning journalist and daddy needs to show up more. You know what I'm saying?
Can't balance that, like B minus, B minus.
You can't. There's no. You oscillate between two things. There's
Well put.
no way of doing two things at one time.
Man.
Always. The brain just doesn't work that way.
Man,
And
but you do it all, man. Podcast, write, KQED, like.
in between, I lay on the ground for 5 minutes, stare at the ceiling, like, okay, next thing. You know, like, you have to know how to like shift and juggle.
Yeah.
And I think that it works really well where if I spend 45 minutes working on a podcast, I want to close the computer, boom, and go jog.
Yeah.
I need that break. I need to go do something physical. I need to go do the dishes, clean the cat box, whatever, and then get back to the next thing, you know? And so that balance doesn't necessarily look like 50-50. It looks like in verse. In verse, you know, where it's like, okay, this rhythm is going for a minute, boom, bring in the hi-hats, drop the beat, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and so I do that to the best of my ability. I realize sleep is really important.
Start to understand that as you get older,
Yeah,
right?
Little things, you know, Hennessy isn't water, you know what I'm saying? Little things, little tricks of the trade that really help, you know?
Is that in the book?
Yeah.
No. Hennessy is not water.
Hennessy is not water. Don't treat it as such.
No.
But really, that's really important. Like, I can't write if I'm hungover, so why am I staying up late drinking?
Yeah.
And it's a Tuesday, and it's my partner's birthday. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, happy 37th birthday. Also, I'm going to catch you later
I
on
got
the
things to do
weekend.
tomorrow morning.
Yeah, exactly, man. So yeah, prioritizing what's really important really helps. And ultimately, I think like all these things that I'm saying, I'm rattling off this list, but it all came from just studying myself.
Key.
Studying myself, bro. Like, what does work for me?
Yes.
Heavy breakfast doesn't work for me. If anything, I eat that yogurt parfait and keep it moving, you know, or a little smoothie or something, and like I'm gone until 2-3 o'clock. That's when I eat the meal.
Probably some of the best advice given on the podcast, because, you know, of course we try and, you know, gear it to the audience and like, okay, young artists, you know, mid-age artists, what's good for you? Let's give you a token of advice in this. And really and truly, I think you hit the nail right on the head. It's like you have to study yourself. I feel like it's like ancient Egyptology, you know, it's like know thyself.
Know thyself.
You know, because
Yeah.
nothing else is going to work. You know, people can give you the best advice, give you the golden ticket, but if you don't know yourself,
Then, you know, all right, so it's wild.
to
All right, all right, so know thyself, right? Gucci Mane, right? Of all people, Gucci Mane's book, I saw myself in his story so much,
wow.
specifically around what we do when shit hits the fan. When something goes bad, we double down, we, black men, often double down on that. When he would have something that, I don't know, snafu in his record label, a relationship that didn't work out right, a run-in with the law or something, he would double down and be off lean and be in the trap house again. You know what I'm saying? And we do that, black men.
Too often.
Where, oh man, I got a ticket, I got a busted window, oh man, I'm Hennessy water, you know, like, and then you're doubling down on that. And so now I'm realizing that, okay, when there are things that are going on that are weighing on my spirit, I need to go vegetable, water, nature. You know what I'm saying? At least for an hour.
It's so simple, but so hard.
Just
It's like, if this isn't working, if this is broke, why do I continue this, schizophrenic behavior of just like repeating the same broken? And it's like, oh, let me study myself and shift gears.
learn from it. Why am I craving fried food after a long day at work?
Right.
There's a problem there, because I know if I wake up in the morning, I'm gonna be like, why did I eat all that chicken? You know, like, nah, at least let me go walk the lake first before I have this fried chicken and I'm get it on a bed of salad.
Or throw a salad in there.
Yeah,
Nigga, eat a salad.
Eat
Straight.
a salad. But yeah, it definitely, I mean, that is part of that, like, wisdom, the OG wisdom. I've always been an old spirit, man, old soul, but that is something that I'm really appreciating at this season in my life, where I'm taking those notes and I'm applying them.
Yeah. No, it's smart, man. And I feel like it's so many levels to this, and so many, I feel like avenues. Me and the producer, we were talking about it. Shout out to your pod masters. Yeah, but me and Tone were just having the conversation. He showed me a Will Smith interview, and Will Smith, what brought it up was the first time that he, myself as well included, had heard Will Smith use the word nigger. that wasn't scripted.
Will Smith don't got a cuss to sell records. That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy? Right? Right. Thinking about that aspect of it, number one.
Yeah.
And then two, like, like it just sounded odd hearing Will Smith say nigger, but not odd because he used it in such a manner with the oomph of like your great grand uncle and how he would get on you, and it just like came from a place was like, oh, that's too authentic. Like,
okay. He went back to Philly?
Yeah, he went back to West Philly on it.
Okay.
We were sitting there talking about it, and he showed me the interview. I was like, that is hilarious. But ultimately, the story was encapsulated about, being great. And so the ultimate, end of the story was about him talking to his son, and the son talking about how he could get, A's if he wanted to. And Will Smith was like, nigga, no, you can't. You a B student, and there's a milestone between, being a B student and being an A student. There's so many light years between being, 90% and 100.
Yeah.
I've done it too many times when I'm painting a mural. Somebody's like, you almost done? I'm like, yeah, I'm about 90%. I'm still there for another week.
Damn.
What's going on, good people? Andre Jamora here, and as the Executive Director of the Bay Area Mural Program, I want to tell you about Chroma Paint. Chroma is our go-to brand, and we want to make sure it's your go-to brand too. Visit them at their website at chromaonline.com.
And to me, in my mind, I thought 90%, like, oh, I'm gonna be done in another day or two. I'll come play ball with you, no problem.
Yeah.
But I'm there 7 days later, after I thought, the whole wall is covered. So even in that pursuit of greatness, for all of the athletes and all the people that we just kind of like take for granted and be like, oh yeah, it's easy to hate on that. It's like, no, you had to have put in so many hours. You've had to, we were joking, it's like, you've had to like, not only just be good and wake up, some people can wake up and be good.
Yeah.
Some people can wake up and be great. But if you want to be, like exceedingly awesome, there's work you got to put in. You can't just roll out the bed and just, like you got to put in that work.
Yep.
Tone was, like you got to change your friends.
Yep.
You got to like shift gears into a different dimension to where you have studied yourself, know what works for yourself, studied other people, see what works for them, and then combine the two and be on a different path towards that.
It's weird. It's like, it's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle choice for sure. And it's not that hard if you do it little by little.
Yeah.
If you do it drastically, if I would have waken up at 17 and like, no more rapping, straight journalism, it'd have been hard.
No.
But it was more of that dimmer light, it was like, rapping's not working as much anymore. Let me do another article. Okay, another video. I got an award. Oh, this is rocking, And so, yeah, that dimmer, you have to slowly ease yourself into that new skin.
Yeah, it's a transition. Speaking of awards,
Yeah.
man, For those that don't know, we are in the presence of greatness.
Man.
We were just talking about that B to an A. He makes it look easy. He says, you know, they just give them out. But my guy has an Emmy.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Kudos to you. Shout out to that, man.
Thank you, and shout out to the team. It was for this project called Dear Beloved.
Dear Beloved.
Where we worked with a team of mothers who had lost sons to gun violence in Oakland, and they were reading letters to them. And what I did, I hosted it. I did the opening part and the ending, and Kariga and Felicia Bailey and Be Imaginative and KQED, we all came together. We did a production at the old train station in West Oakland, and it's beautiful. The music is awesome. Wow. And I was just lucky enough to be a part of that team.
Man, no, I can't even think of a better person to actually, you know, host or even give the introduction. I got to go and check it out. But definitely, if you haven't seen it, give us the name one more time.
Dear Beloved. Dear
Beloved.
Dear Beloved is it. It's on YouTube. You type in Dear Beloved KQED, it'll pop up.
Yeah, moving. I can imagine.
It's heavy. It's heavy work. And you know, it's pretty tough. All this work that I do, like uplifting, this good feeling story, and it's the work that's like about death in the black community that gets the award. And it's a bit frustrating because I see it time and time again in media.
Yeah, I mean, frustrating on so many levels. One, because it's what's happening in the black community.
Yeah.
One. And then two, because this is the narrative that, you know, people are expecting to see. So this is what people tune into. It's like just under the slave narrative. It's like, new slave movie. It's like, people ain't going to support it. How did I get an award?
Yeah.
It's like people still supporting it. It's like, you know, it's,
and
so,
that's the frustration. You said it kind of like adds fuel to that stereotype, that trope about Oakland violence and everything. And these are mothers who've experienced some heinous things, and for them to be platformed and heard is really important.
It's important as well too, though.
And so yeah, it's
truly
conflicting. And it's one of a few awards that I've been honored to get for doing journalism. And it's wild to think, man, reading and writing, you know, like take me this far. And so yeah,
man,
I'm really
toot your horn, man. Give us some of the other awards you've gotten.
Oh man, all types of stuff. The Facing Life one won a couple of different awards, some online web awards. We recently took it to Vancouver, where we had a showing at an art gallery. So it's an international project now. Right now, it's just won a couple of awards. Initially, I got some writing awards. So beyond just the podcast at KQED, I also write columns and pieces about Bay Area arts and culture. And so, yeah, that's gotten a couple of awards as well. And so it feels good to have that under the belt. It looks good on the resume. It helps to apply for jobs. And the work don't stop. You know, like this is something that I do. It's a lifestyle.
It is a lifestyle, man.
And so
for those that don't know, like, now you know, like, Pendarvis does this. It's not even just something you see on a podcast or hear on the radio. Like, Pendarvis lives this. He's in the prisons, he's in the schools, he's in the field, he's in the streets. So anything you see with Pendarvis's name on it, definitely check it out.
I appreciate that, man. That cosign is even more important than the awards. I'll tell you that. Last thing on the awards, like,
man, you give me goosebumps.
No, it is, but it is though, man. Like, that's what all this other stuff looks good on a resume. You talk about it at dinner parties, but like when I go home, I sleep at night, it's quiet time, and I think about the work that I did and if my contribution to this world is important. During COVID, I wrote a story about a person who passed in San Quentin due to COVID, and just how messed up the situation was within prisons. His brother sent me a text message after the story came out. Hey, man, I really appreciate you doing this. No one else wrote about my brother. Just that right there. It's like, that's my award.
Right. Real talk, man. Well, that's why we had you on the show today, man, because I feel like the work, not even just the work, the impact that you've made in Oakland, the Bay Area, you know, in people's lives, you know, incarcerated, on the streets. You know, your story is important, man.
Thank you.
I felt like it needed to be told.
Thank you for telling the story of the storyteller.
Man, it's super important. In documentation, a lot of people always forget that part. And it's like, you know, it's like, don't shoot the messenger. But, you know, if he delivers a good message, big him up.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Thank you for that, man. Thank you for doing the work that you're doing. And we're long overdue to have conversation. Like I said, I've talked to a little bit of everyone in your crew, even Tone. I was like, wait, hold on. We even did an interview back in the day. You know what I'm saying? So, like, yeah, I'm glad to finally sit down and chop it up with you.
Sounds good, man. We're going to do a lot more, man.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you, family.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. All right.
Oh, God.
Hey, real quick.
Yeah. What's up?
I would like for you, if you have time.
Yep.
But there's one thing I really wanted you to touch on. Remember we were talking earlier about book production.
Yeah.
And like independent route versus like publishing
Yeah.
and you get it completely independent. One thing that you kind of always do in this podcast is you allow people to get insights on, how do you monetize the art and like certain things of experience. I would love to hear you talk a little bit about that experience from the financial side, from the business side. Would you do that route again? And then you can speak to your experience with working with publishing and how with the reason you was doing it independent. Do you mind?
Yeah, no, we can touch on that briefly because we were having the conversation earlier just about, the book, self-publishing, and then it kind of got into platforms, Like we kind of got off self-publishing, but we were just talking about musical artists, visual artists, and being able to have a platform. Here, the Bay Area Mural Program has been our platform, myself included, for a lot of artists to be seen. We were doing the work prior, but without a platform, sometimes you just fly under the radar. So you can be great. Even we were talking about Michael Jackson, Prince, a lot of people who have, died fighting for their masters, and complaining about that, 50-50 split, or just even how the record company makes so much money off of their work. And just playing devil's advocate, I was like, but without that platform, how many records would that artist have sold? How many paintings would actually be requested? And I'm sure there is, just using Michael Jackson, amazing artist, I'm sure super talented. Without, I don't even know, RCA, I don't even know who their record label was, but like without the record label, I'm sure they would have been banging in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Or Prince, or.
So to that point in journalism, there's a couple of things. One, I grew up around hip hop artists, right? And so seeing what they did and how they would put out a single, and then put out an album. The singles would build up the buzz so people knew what they were cooking, what they were talking about, and then that album would be the full meal, Right. And I would do that with journalism. I'd put out an article here, publish an article there, freelance, until finally the book comes out. Mm-hmm. And then I realized that, these independent articles that I put out, they could be blog posts just as well. And I retain the rights to those, And I could kick up dust in my own circle, putting out these blog posts, or at the same time, while I'm doing this, I could have this other hand working with institutions and publish articles through whatever publication so that I can reach new audiences while still retaining my voice. Yeah. And so that's what I did in the early stages of my career, where I would get a fellowship and work for a couple of weeks with California Sunday Magazine, which was like a publication that published its own magazine, and it would be embedded in the LA Times, New York Times, and San Francisco Chronicle. And so I'm reaching those readers, as well as I'm reaching the folks in the town who see me running around this big head kid on a bike with a camera, they know me. And so I'm developing my brand in multiple ways. Yeah. And OG told me specifically when I was doing those Tumblr posts, I'm more or less putting out those singles. Each interview is a single. And I'm building up the buzz. People know what I talk about. People developing my brand. And so when I publish the book, it's not like, whoa, where did this book come from? It's like, no, we kind of expected it, bro. I've been working on this for 5 years.
We got a little taste of,
Exactly.
We got the,
And so I keep that in mind even now, where I could have a full-time job. I still need an independent project on the side. And the full-time job helps me pay for my bills and takes care of my family, all that stuff. And the independent stuff allows me to do something that I really, truly believe in, my voice independently. And so that balance of, what does it say? One for the studio, one for the self. I really take that to heart.
Yeah.
And then in terms of like financing, like the book, like I paid out of pocket to get it printed. I went to the print shop in Berkeley and did the math. I was like, okay, let me get these many prints. I need to sell them at this rate. I worked with a couple of local brick and mortar stores to have them stashed there because I realized I couldn't get everywhere on my backpack with my backpack on. And that helped to have that balance. And, it became a little bit overwhelming to do the business side and be an artist.
And that's what the platform is for. Usually, if the platform does what it's supposed to,
you can just be an artist.
You can just be the artist.
Yeah.
And I think, it's negotiable of what that split is. Established record labels, like they have all the channels.
Yep.
They got the plugs with the venues. They know all the big concert halls.
Yep.
They know how to reach millions of listeners. You're going to have to do that dance, but at the same time, they know how to get you seen.
Right.
Whether the people fuck with you or not, that's going to be on your talent and your merit, but at the same time, it's, I don't know if that touches upon your.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
The last thing I'll say on that platform, the big institution, you come in at a higher level of respect when they see what you're cooking independently. When
Yeah.
they see that you got your own thing going, they're like, oh yeah, we'll put an extra couple dollars on it,
Yeah.
or you don't have to dance as much.
Yeah,
Because you've
exactly.
already established who you are and what you talk about.
You already have
I
a
already have my
following,
own following, yeah.
Yeah.
And so they were like, well, just keep doing what you're doing and we'll pay you.
Yeah.
And so that's like, I'm in a very fortunate position where at KQD I've never been told to write anything.
Nice.
Like that's unheard of in the journalism industry, especially like arts and culture. Like you usually get assignments. Like no, they know that I'm in the mix.
Yeah,
and
you're going to give them that heat. Yeah,
So
you're going to give them what the people are talking about.
yeah, again, it started off by fucking up, but I learned along the way. Yeah.
That was a key tidbit. Real quick question towards the book thing. This republishing, are you putting it on any major circuits? Are you looking to try and get larger distribution with it this go around?
Yeah, I think I put it online. I have to put it in the big bookstore. I will also promote smaller bookstores.
Kindle, Amazon, or
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have to. Just so it's accessible.
yeah.
I'll also do I've been working in
I
audio
think
for the
that's what started the conversation, because I was talking about how much, with using Kindle, how much the cut they were going to take
yeah.
with this book, and I was like, I'm
Yeah.
going to also purchase a bunch of them on my own and
Yep.
sell them on my own independent website and just say autograph copy. and
Exactly.
sell it
Add
for-
an incentive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also there are people who don't want to reach you, who don't want to talk to you.
Yeah, no,
They
they
just
don't
wanna
care.
buy-
Autograph. I don't care. I just want. Give me the information.
Yeah.
And I get it. So it's like being able to figure out where the audience is and meet them halfway.
But all audiences.
Oh yeah, some want the visuals, some want the. Because I almost did this book with no pictures, but I was like, oh my goodness.
No, you as a visual
as a visual artist, I was like, I can't even breaking the author. People are gonna want to see some visuals.
And the win-win is when you sell 200 copies to a school, and then you come and you speak to that school with 3 or
Right.
4 different classes, because now the young people can see the book, they can leave with that, but they also have an experience that
Yeah.
drives this book home.
Yeah.
And they're like, I met this dude. I see his work all around the community.
And that's why I do the work that I do. And I feel like, as a father, the work that we do is like, being able to inspire the next generation, giving them something to brag about, giving them an example to where it's like, you wrote you're an author? I can be an author wearing sneakers?
Yeah.
I can be a Emmy Award winner wearing a baseball cap?
Yeah.
As long as I,
Yeah, do the
know
work.
myself and do the work.
Yeah, yeah.
Being able to instill that confidence into a next generation of people that look like me, reminded me of myself when I was that age, is the reward within itself.
You can't measure that, man. Again, it allows me to sleep at night.
Yeah, truly. So yeah, man. Thank you all for tuning in. We've done another amazing episode of Urban Artist Talk here with KQED. Right now-ish. I'm sitting there like got stuck because I'm like, man, he's got the award-winning,
Bro, I'm a reader and a writer, man.
a reader and a writer,
a reader,
straight.
a professionally literate person, man. You know what I'm saying? No, I really appreciate you for holding us down. Shout out to everybody watching. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Pendarvis,
Yeah.
the amazing.
Peace.
Give me the paint, give me the chalk, give me the urban artist talk. Give me the paint, give me the chalk, give me the urban artist talk.